Welcome. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another Living Life Naturally podcast. And I thank you for being here with me today. I'm your host, Lynn Wadsworth. And as always, an invitation, ladies, to the Energized Healthy Women's Club, where we are going to be discussing in depth on hormones. So would love to have you part of that conversation. So today I have a guest with me, and we just joked about I'm not very good at pronouncing this, so let's see how I can do. So we have got Karolina Rzadkowolska, and she is a certified alcohol-free life coach who helps intuitive women make alcohol insignificant in their lives. She's worked with thousands of clients through her online courses and coaching to change their drinking habit and unleash a new level of health, happiness, and potential to go after their biggest dreams. Her book, Euphoric, Ditch Alcohol and Gain a Healthier, More Confident You, which is published by HarperCollins, came out on bookshelves just on January the 4th. She's the host of Euphoric, the podcast, the founder of Euphoric AF, and her work has been featured in the Huffington Post, the Sunday Post, Pop Sugar, Real Simple, Elite Daily, and multiple TV shows. So Karolina's passionate about helping you discover what really makes you happy outside of a beverage and design a life that you love. And she would love to hear from you at her website at www.euphoricaf.com. So welcome to our podcast today. We're very thrilled to have you here.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Such a warm welcome. So excited to be here.
Thanks. And tell our listeners where you're joining from.
I'm in San Diego, California.
Great. So you, like me, here in sunny Florida, have what a lot of people are still longing for, nice warm weather.
Yes, we do. Yes. We do.
So tell me a little bit about what got you into this kind of life coaching. So I know a few that do this type of thing, but it's very unusual to be an alcohol-free life coach. So share a little bit about your story with us.
Yeah, when it comes to going alcohol free, I think we have very traditional ideas about it, right? We have this old school paradigm that someone would have to drink way too much in their life, hit some kind of rock bottom, and then only then go on to a sober recovery kind of a journey. And what that type of paradigm is, what I feel is missing is that it doesn't allow us to just consciously reevaluate the role of alcohol in our lives, no matter what our consumption level is, right? Alcohol is technically a toxic beverage. It doesn't have very good qualities when it comes to our health. And it's as if we don't have permission to ask ourselves, hey, wait a minute, is this beverage really serving me? Is it serving my health? Is it serving my happiness? Or is it serving my, my drive and my ambition to go after what I really want? And that's really why I found myself in the boat 5 years ago. I had a perfectly so-so life. Everything was going just fine. I actually only drank on the weekends. I wasn't drinking every day or anything, but I would overdrink every weekend, right? I would do this healthy game where I was very healthy Monday through Thursday. I did all the yoga, I meditated, I drank my green juice, ate my vegetables, and then the weekend was just the free-for-all, right? And I woke up every Monday morning feeling completely out of it, disappointed in myself, like this cloud of negative energy.
Yeah.
But every time I looked around, I just saw everyone else really doing the same thing. And so I really repeated the cycle over and over and over for years. And I didn't really think there was any possibility of changing, because otherwise that would mean things like rehab and AA and, all these scary terms that wasn't really applicable to me. And so I just kept on with maybe the societal status quo. I finally, though, just took a break from alcohol. I got so sick of these feelings. I dipped a toe into taking a break, and I fell in love with the way I felt. And from that moment, it just was this awakening of wow, I have so much more energy. I have so much better sleep. I just feel so much more proud of myself. What if this is the key to happier living? I drank again after that break. And that was when I really saw the contrast. That was when even one drink I noticed kept me up. I didn't sleep very well, woke up tired. I noticed that my mood changed a lot too, that even, without drinking, I was super happy and energetic and really appreciative of my surroundings. And then just one or two drink in, I'd actually get cranky and frustrated, and my mood would just dip after that initial buzz. And that's when I was like, wow, drinking actually kind of sucks. And I decided to take another break at that point. And that break basically turned into 4.5 years later that I've been alcohol free. And I'm so passionate about helping women with this because, I speak with health coaches, I speak with professional career coaches, I speak with so many different people. And it's so uncanny how many people are stuck in a habit with alcohol that really isn't serving some of their other goals, right? And honestly, it's not surprising. We are literally taught to drink as teenagers. It is the code to belonging and acceptance in every social event as an adult. Like, it's no wonder we're all drinking, right? It's been literally conditioned on us as a habit. And yet the only path forward is we either keep drinking and that's normal, or we give it up and somehow then we become this problem in society. Well, I propose a third way, right? A third way of just being intuitive and asking yourself, does this habit really serve me, my happiness, my goals, my dreams? And just experiment with it. Maybe just experiment with the break. And then when you can really reevaluate and ask yourself, do I really want this A lifestyle or B lifestyle? You make that choice out of your deeper intuition, your deeper guidance system. And I've just seen the most incredible breakthroughs, both with my life and the women I've worked with.
Yeah, and I can so relate to that. Being a health coach, I track how I feel with certain things. And I can honestly say that if I do drink alcohol, and I try not to drink a lot because I have migraines, and so of course that is a trigger, but I notice that if I ever have had a drink on the weekend, we've been out for dinner maybe, the next day I'm so lethargic and so, I guess a little, as you say, grumpy. And people just assume that if you have an alcohol problem, it has to be that you're a big drinker, and or even how they label alcoholics. I kind of believe it depends on how you are dependent upon a substance. If you come home at night and you're stressed out at work and you feel a drink is the only thing that can get you through, then, as you say, what is that serving? And I know you go into talking about how even health conscious people drink or binge drink, and yet we don't really hear a whole lot about how dangerous alcohol can be to us, whereas we hear a lot about the smoking, the overeating in the health coaching realm, certainly. And why is it that we don't hear as much about alcohol as maybe tobacco, where they've had a big drive on it and taken the tobacco ads out?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think the same phenomenon is happening with the alcohol industry as did with the tobacco industry. So back in the 60s, we didn't know about the dangers of smoking either, right? And it was it was this misinformation game, right? Like some things were like, oh, even doctors are saying it's good for you, right? I mean, it was ridiculously bogus. But I think the same things really happened with alcohol. And we had a lot of misinformation, both like the alcohol industry was actually funding studies that were very poorly designed of showing that moderation is really good for you. Now in 2022, we have definitive studies over the last 10 years that have literally been going back eons and correcting all that data. There's no safe amount of alcohol to drink. It causes cancer. It causes heart disease. Even the World Health Federation came out this year to say that one glass of wine is bad for the heart, not good for the heart, right? But we have this societal knowledge that, wait a minute, a glass of red wine is good for the heart. So there's a lot of just misinformation and really correcting, like, wait a minute, where did we pick up these beliefs? What was that poorly designed study? How much does the alcohol industry have really had to play in touting moderation is really good for you? So if obviously we're confused, obviously we don't know about this stuff. They've studied it and shown that one bottle of wine is the equivalent of smoking 10 cigarettes, which means that even just one glass of wine is equivalent to about 2.5 cigarettes on our cancer risk. Nobody knows that, right? And they want it to be hush hush. And so when I really went deep into this, I really found so much compelling information that I didn't know before. And I was like, I wish I did know this, right? I wish I did. And sometimes the health stuff can be a little, scary, right? Like we all drank before. It can be a little intimidating to look at. But something really promising that I love to focus on even more is what happens when you take a break. So they have proven studies that even just 5 weeks off alcohol, for example, your blood pressure will drop. Your blood cholesterol, which we often is not correlated with alcohol use, drops on average 20 points. Mine personally dropped 50 points. Wow. Now, I'm sorry, but most medications can't do that. And how many people struggle with high levels of cholesterol or pre-hypertension or something like that. They've proven that 5 weeks off alcohol will reduce your cancer markers in your body and reduce your liver fat as it grows more gray matter in your brain. So like a break is literally one of the healthiest things I think we can do for our body and our brain. And it's just such a good way to reset and really ask ourselves, do we actually really enjoy drinking, or is this a habit we fell into a long time ago that we just have now come to be a little emotionally dependent on, as you mentioned, to deal with stress, when really there's so many better ways to deal with stress. For example, alcohol actually physiologically isn't relaxing on a human body. It releases stress hormones in our body. So we release cortisol and adrenaline in response to alcohol. We wake up more stressed. It's actually tied to more anxiety, right? So it's just so interesting how there's such a cultural assumptions that we put on alcohol. It's relaxing, it's fun, it's healthy, even in some respects. And I think it just really takes an astute person to ask themselves, wait a minute, let's actually find fact from fiction, and let's really find what works for me, because if even one drink ruins my sleep and makes me feel tired the next day, is it really worth it? Obviously, no one's over drinking at that point, but is it still worth it? You know what I mean? And maybe we've just been kind of duped into this conditioning that we have to drink as adults, instead of really getting the freedom to choose, whether you want to eliminate gluten in your life or sugar or meat. All of those choices seem to be pretty acceptable today, but it's still, with alcohol, is like the weird thing. It's like, why aren't you drinking? Do you have a problem? Are you pregnant? It's so crazy. And I just want people to have more choices, not that nobody doesn't drink anymore, but we just don't have the expectation that we have to.
So that's interesting what you're saying about asking yourself, if I do this, will it do this? Because it's a question that I have asked myself related to migraines. So it's the same premise. So I know if I eat some cheese, one of my favorite things to eat, and I can't, is it worth the fact that tomorrow I'm going to have a migraine? And I can say 98% of the time I'm going to tell you, no, it's absolutely not worth it. So if we start looking at alcohol in terms like that, and of course, there's a certain intuition that you have to have with your body, and you have to know what it's feeling. But so like yesterday, we did go out for lunch and I did have a glass of wine. I then came home and slept for 2 hours, which is totally wasted time to me. And then, of course, it messed up my sleep. And this morning, I feel like I'm dragging. So you would ask yourself the question, well, was it worth it? Just like you're saying, really, was that worth it? Because I've lived the totally alcohol-free life, lived it for many, many years with my migraines, and I know how much better I felt. So people don't even realize that their first thing is, well, I'll sleep better if I drink alcohol. And that really isn't true, right?
Yeah, about 20% of Americans misguidedly use it to fall asleep. And alcohol is one of the worst disruptors for our sleep. Even one glass of wine has been proven to reduce our normal REM sleep cycles from around 5 to 6 a night down to just 1 or 2. So we're waking up tired, even if we're clocking in those 8 hours. Basically, alcohol sedates you into sleep. So you're sedating into this slow wave sleep, but you're not getting any of that REM sleep. And then usually, especially if you had more than one, you're waking up at 3, 4 a.m. And then it's this really fragmented light sleep for the rest of the morning. And, it's crazy. Like the sleep is just so important. And when we lose even 1 hour of sleep, it takes like 5 days to regain that. Right. So, I mean, basically the way I was living my life, even though I drank on the weekends, I was perpetually robbing myself of the sleep I needed and perpetually exhausted. And, the difference in my energy, my mood, my just joie de vivre, to like want to go out and do the things that really make me happy. It's just so different because of that. But also, on culminating on these health effects, it's really also been a gift of self-love. The way you framed it, like, is this cheese worth the migraine? It's almost as if like the past version of you has to decide to take care of the future version of you, and when the future version of you wakes up feeling taken care of and respected by the past version of you, it breeds that self-love. And I just remember feeling the opposite all the time, like waking up in the morning and being like, really? Did she really have to do that to me? Didn't she know I had an early morning presentation? Didn't she know, And so my levels of self-love, and the ones that, is cultivated with my clients as well, has just risen so much. And it's just self-love, it's self-esteem, it's self-worth. And I think all of that spills over into other areas of your life. And in so many ways, alcohol tricks our brain into thinking it's fun. It actually does affect the pleasure center in our brain, as does cocaine, as does heroin, right?
Sugar.
Right. But the thing is that also robs us of the opportunity of discovering what's really fun. Like someone could be entertained every day, come home, open some wine, sit on the couch. But like, what about what they really like and enjoy? What about the outside world? What about really discovering your passions? And so the women I've worked with, it's not just about removing the alcohol. It's more about actually creating a space to discover what they really want in life. And really exploratory, starting maybe new hobbies, new passions, new ways of having fun on a Friday night that often turn into this incredible purpose or calling or even a new direction in their career or life because they found something they're so much more passionate about it. And that's really what happened to me. Ultimately, I was drinking out of boredom. I had a 9-to-5 job. I was unfulfilled. The weekend was literally the highlight, and the bottle of wine on that weekend was the reward. And it wasn't until I took a break that I recognized that into that life I was living, that I needed to align my life to my deeper values and my bigger dreams. And I made some big changes. I quit my job. I launched a business. I wrote a book. I now live a life where I travel. I'm moving to Europe for 3 months this summer.
Cool.
I'm just so much more fulfilled because I'm going after what I really want instead of getting stuck in the cycle of thinking alcohol is really the best thing. That's the next best thing. And I think that's really where some powerful life transformations can happen too. None of this is overnight. And you know what? Even alcohol doesn't have to be some kind of black and white decision. I rarely recommend people quit or say, I'm never going to drink again, because the brain likes to rebel against things like that.
True.
And so I like really being experimental, of really just trying, especially if someone's been drinking since they're 18, they haven't ever really stopped unless they're pregnant. We just don't even know what it feels like, right? So take an experiment, take 30 days off, take 60 days off, see how you feel. And you might gain so much evidence that you feel so much better, like you were saying, that eventually tips the seesaw in the other direction.
Growing up in England, our culture was even different about alcohol, because over there at 16, you can go into a pub with an adult and you can order a drink. If your adult is there with you, no problem. Of course, the drinking age there is 18. But my parents were of the opinion that, well, they're probably going to do it, so we might as well let them do it while we're there with them. So I remember at an early teenage age being allowed to drink wine at the table. And for many years, I thought about that. Is that a good thing because it teaches you not to go to the extremes, or is it just something that we shouldn't be doing? I guess there's pros and cons with both of them. For me, I wouldn't say it worked out so well, because when I was 18 and went off the deep end, so to speak, I just went totally the other way, and drinking was my whole life. And I didn't know how to have fun without alcohol. And that's really sad.
Yeah. I mean, that was my story too. And I mean, that's the college, that's like literally how university is painted to us, right? And it's almost as if alcohol is this key in our mind when we're younger to being an adult, to being independent, to being even rebellious, to being glamorous, sophisticated. I mean, look how much TV and movies like James Bond phenomenon, Sex and the City, like these things are programmed in us. Even watching adults drink around us when we're kids, it's like we get it from a very early age. Oh, this is what adults do. This is how you belong. This is how you have fun. And then we don't really have much room in our society to question that. And so, even with the which is better, and let children explore it on their own, or like, see it, have them get introduced slowly. Maybe there's even more options than that. I've recently read that the Generation Z, the youngest generation that's of age right now, they are the lightest drinkers, and most of them are abstainers.
Yes.
So like, I really think that maybe the way our generations like made alcohol as a central focal point of adulthood, maybe that doesn't have to be the case for future generations. Just like cigarettes have really changed the way that we see them today too. There's so many alcohol-free beverages out there today, so many alcohol-free bars and pop-ups and mocktail events, sober raves. There's just so much going on that says, hey, you don't need a side of hangovers just to have a social life, right? And I think that, we are all part of this change, this health conscious change, to just pave a different way forward. And I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to see how that will pan out.
Yeah, I've actually noticed that in my own younger grandchildren who would be the last thing that they would want to do was to take a drink or have a cigarette. And I think it's totally commendable. And I think it really is this generation that's coming up that's somehow got a bit more together than we all did.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we paved the way, but the health consciousness, the personal growth orientation, even the medical technologies, I like to think in 100 years with everything that will advance so exponentially in medicine, is it really possible we're going to continue drinking this like crude ethanol? They'll invent something else. You know what I mean? Like when I look at the forward future, I just see new possibilities, and like I said, excited for it.
So now we've talked about the physical health benefits, but we haven't talked about the mental aspects and the challenges that we might face mentally. How can you address that?
Yeah, of course. And, taking a break from alcohol, I think is really brave, because all of a sudden, in our society, like I mentioned in the earlier part of the show, we have this old school way of looking at who drinks and who doesn't, right? People who drink are cool and edgy and fun and fit in. People who don't drink either have a problem, or they're religious, or they're boring, right? We have a lot of negative stereotypes around people who don't drink. And so, even the decision to say, I'm not going to worry about what society is going to label me, I'm going to do what's best for me, is a huge, huge leap of faith and a huge act of bravery. And as you continue to go on your alcohol-free journey, every time you order a mocktail at an establishment that, might not have them on the menu, or every time you tell a friend or you speak up about it, it really is building this courage muscle. And I really believe that some of the challenges we have to overcome in taking a break from alcohol, for example, learning how to feel your emotions and process them instead of numb them, learning about what you really want and need in the moment, not just what's going to be a short-term gratification solution, learning to have fun on your own and just rediscover your passions and create fun instead of wait for fun to just hit you on the side of the head. Learn how to be brave about your choices and really own your identity, as a non-drinker in a world that's obsessed with alcohol. All of these things I almost believe is like these spiritual lessons that we go through. And yes, it's in the context of alcohol, but I really believe that they translate to so many more important areas of your life. It's a personal growth reevaluation of who you really are and what you really want in life. It stops you. It's almost as if we're all asleep at the wheel, and especially in like mindfulness, we have that saying that we're all kind of asleep. We get super used to the status quo in our life, and something wakes us up. And I think that this is a beautiful way to wake up a little bit to the profundity of our life, to the profundity of like, what do I really want to do? How do I really want to live? And why am I not doing that? These are a lot of some of the big questions that come up with the exploration, and you really have to get outside your comfort zone. Just like with any other even healthy food swap or change, like we know how comforting it is to eat the stuff or drink the stuff that isn't so good for us. That's our emotional home. We live in that comfort. But taking that step outside, especially when it comes to changing your relationship with alcohol, it almost teaches you to like learn that my comfort zone isn't my happiness place. It's my zone maybe of safety, but I'm also unfulfilled there and slowly dying in my comfort zone, right? Like we were meant to push outside of it and really go after, risks and challenges to feel fulfilled, to feel stimulated, and to continue growing in our life instead of staying stagnant. So I've really seen, mentally, all the ways one must let go of their associations of alcohol. And I'm not just talking about not drinking. I'm actually talking about some of the deeper mindset work of like, why did I come to believe alcohol was a benefit in my life? For example, for me, I'm introverted and I grew up painfully shy. So when I first started drinking, it was like the magical elixir that turned me into an extrovert. And I really felt that my confidence came from alcohol, not anything within myself. Obviously, that's a personal growth challenge and hurdle that I had to overcome on my own. Alcohol never solved it for me. I actually got more insecure over time with drinking. It was like, do I have wine stains on my teeth? Did I say something out of character? Did they see me go for another glass? It actually fed so much more into my insecurities than any confidence. And I learned how to develop that within myself and find it within instead of reaching for a drink to find that liquid courage. And that was an incredible, powerful personal growth, journey that I went on. And I believe that all the reasons why we think that we need alcohol often result in the same kind of growing experience where we really find no, I can take care of myself. I can find the ways to relax, or maybe even design a life that isn't so stressful. Like I have the intentionality to start really making some beautiful shifts here instead of just being so reactive all the time, right? I have all the stress and then I drink. I have all the stress and then I drink. Let's remove the alcohol and figure out why it's so stressful and take care of yourself in a better way. It's so much more holistic and so much more, forward thinking of a way to design. So honestly, it's like, I'm sure really similar to the work you do. Like this isn't just about the one little thing. It's not just about the little health or the energy you want. It's cascades into such different changes in your life.
Yeah, that's so true. And I like what you said, because I'm an introvert, and it can be very challenging when you go out socially if you are introverted. And of course, you've got a glass of alcohol in your hand, you feel a bit more confident. But there's this stigma attached that people like your friends, even your family, are going to think that if you stop drinking that you're not going to be fun anymore, because socializing with alcohol is where it's at. So how can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely. And, some of the research I did for my book was just so eye-opening. So for example, I found that most people overdrink. Most people who do drink, around 60% are over drinking, way above the health guidelines, right? So like when we think of people who have it together versus not together with alcohol, most people are in that gray area, right? It's complicated. We're not really even taught to have healthy habits around alcohol. Like you don't go to a dinner party and then everyone has one drink and then we're like, okay, we're done. No more alcohol, please put it away, right? No, that's not how we socialize, right? We have a culture of obviously drinking above the health guidelines. That's so normal. And it's not even considered a problem. And then additionally to that, I found that the majority of drinkers actually wish they drank less or not at all. So it's not just like the one lone person who's, sitting there like, oh no, this is such a problem. A lot of people have regrets and remorse around drinking. And honestly, when you think of it as a very objective, common sense thing, it makes sense. Nobody wakes up after drinking feeling like $1,000,000, right? Alcohol produces headaches and it makes us feel nauseous. I mean, alcohol, like physically, when you look at it, what it does to the body, it makes sense. But somehow we're not really good as a society of acknowledging that, right? So when you know that most people actually wish they drank less or not at all, even if they can't consciously come to that conclusion themselves, that's what I think when you go out and you don't drink in public, it's often you being an inspirer and a leader and a role model. And you have no idea what ripple effects you'll create in the social networks around you to take a stand for this and literally inspire someone else. Because I'll tell you, if I saw someone not drinking at a party 5 years ago and they were having a good time, I would have been like, wait a minute, you're allowed to do that? I didn't think you were allowed to do that. Like it was as if my brain didn't compute that before. I thought you had to drink. And part of me wanted other people to drink so that I wouldn't have to go through the misery the next day by myself, right? So it's often way more based on the insecurities or the complicated relationship thoughts that other people have around alcohol than actually anything to do with you. And I mean, if you think about it, drinking as fun is this huge thing we've come up with as a society. And yet drinking is doing the same thing over and over again. You go to the same bar, you go to the same couch, you go to whatever, and you sit there and you let this beverage entertain your brain. Like what about looking at this world and being an active agent and creating our fun? What about all the things we used to do as kids to create fun? No one's just sat on their couch all day, right? We went and climbed trees and we roller skated and we put on plays. Like we use our imagination to its fullest and the world around us. And I think that's something so missing in adulthood. So oftentimes I have women who go alcohol free and then they'll challenge their social circle to do something a little different. Maybe let's meet up for a hike instead of just going out for happy hour like we always do. Let's go get coffee and really talk. Let's maybe try a new activity together, like bowling or yoga or, whatever it is, just something different and something fun. And I think that when we're really actually present to fun, like that's when we really feel the exhilaration of it. I think of a vacation I had in Hawaii recently, and I did all the things. I went snorkeling. I went on hiking trips. I went on bike rides. I saw some beautiful animals. I just was going all over the place, just having a great time. And, combine that with an experience I had maybe 10 years ago drinking. I sat on the same beach. I didn't even swim because I'm day drinking, right? And I'm just missing out on literally everything. Which person is having more fun, truly, right? And so, yes, it's an examination and a redefinition of fun. But I think even socially, like you can be the rebel, you can be the leader, you can be the one that's going to change the definition of fun for your social circle. And that might not be accepted at first, right? But people often have an uncanny way of going deep within themselves when they see someone doing something different, if that makes sense. That's how leaders are born.
Yeah. So tell people where they can find you, find your book, and connect with you.
Absolutely. So you can find my book Euphoric at www.euphoricbook.com. You can also search for Euphoric on Amazon. You'll find it almost in every retailer. And then if you're interested, in working with me, I also host retreats for women who are alcohol free. I have many programs and coaching. I have my own podcast called Euphoric the Podcast. Please go to euphoricaf.com. And let me just say this, if this conversation has piqued your interest, like I said earlier, it's not black and white thinking. It's not, oh my gosh, I'm never can drink again, right? It's actually re-examining why we've come to believe alcohol is so necessary. And when you come to actually remove all of those mental associations and cultural assumptions, what you're actually left with is no more desire. You literally don't desire anymore, because really what it all is just this fermented beverage in a cup. And we as a society have attached all the meaning onto it. And when you remove all of that, it's like, I'm lucky. I feel lucky I don't have to drink. I don't care for alcohol. I don't think about alcohol. And so it's really this deeper, cooler work. So you don't even have to start with a break to begin with. I would just suggest, if this interested you, lean in, read a book, for example, listen to a podcast episode. There's so much happening in this alcohol-free movement. There's so much to learn and different information to digest. So just lean in, just take the next step and just learn a little bit more. And I think you'll learn a lot about yourself in the process.
Thanks. Appreciate that. We hear so much about food freedom, but we don't hear so much about alcohol freedom. So yes, it is a movement that's starting to grab a hold. And I think that that's so totally awesome that you're helping people in that way. And I really appreciate you being on our podcast with us today. Do you have any parting words or last minute tips that you'd like to give to our listeners?
Oh, just real quick, last minute tip, find a new drink you love if you're going to embark on this journey. There's so many options these days, from non-alcoholic craft beers, non-alcoholic wines, different adaptogen and nootropic concoctions, different nightlife drinks, health tonics galore. I mean, literally, you could spend the rest of your life just trying new drinks every night. So it's not about deprivation. It's actually about finding something you love, and you still get the ritual and you still get the nice quiet time to relax to yourself. That part is the good part, right? But let's just remove the toxic part out of it, and I bet you will find that it actually is serving the needs you're really looking to serve, and you'll have a lot of fun exploring this world.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate you being here with us today. And I'm just blown away at how much correlation there is between this and the way that I work in the whole food and healthy lifestyle. It all meshes so well together. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was such a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. You have been listening to the Living Life Naturally podcast, where we're on a mission to inform, inspire, and encourage women to live their best life confidently, joyfully, and freely from what's been holding them back. For show notes and free resources, visit holistic-healthandwellness.com. And I'd be delighted if you'd follow us on socials to connect further. If you enjoyed this show, why not share it with your friends? If you found good value, chances are they will too. And of course, a 5-star review on iTunes is always greatly appreciated, as much as I appreciate you listening. So until next time, live life naturally and joyfully.